Huh?
Tripping with Tripp.
We're here. Yeah. Right. Tripping with Tripp, the podcast. Welcome everybody to the season finale of Tripping with Tripp, the podcast at Habitable Spaces in collaboration and featuring Habitable Spaces, mostly on quarantine. And we are with directors Shane and Allison. Hey, y'all.
Hey, how's it going?
Back. So we are doing this virtually, and we should probably mention that you guys are on rural Wi-Fi, which drove me crazy while I was out there.
Ugh, it's terrible. We need that infrastructure package.
It's huge. It's huge. I talked to the dog on my last interview, and they were the same way out there in San Marcos. But so. Yeah. Just a heads up that thunder and lightning. I am in Dallas, the beautiful canyon country of Dallas, Texas, at my parents' temporary apartment, which they're living in because we experienced that horrific deep freeze, which their pipes exploded in downtown Dallas, and literally total loss on their home. They got run out of their home, 4 inches of water. It was crazy. So lots has happened. And we're going to talk about this. What I think we should talk about is past building up to this, what our first interview, which thankfully we got out of right before quarantine hit. We were all excited about doing a whole other collaboration, which ended up being this collaboration, little unbeknownst to us at the time. So we can talk a little bit about our past, what built up to it, our present. Now we are, today is Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day, y'all. Thank you to
Memorial Day.
All these freedoms available to us. It's May 31st, Monday, 6:26 Texas time. And people are getting vaxxed and waxed and unmasked. I was going to shed my mask symbolically.
We've already done it.
Okay, so where to begin? I have been, and you guys can chime in anytime. This is just like cocktail conversation, basically. More dinner time conversation. I'm on a bar stool with my Red Bull.
Perfect.
So talking about the past, basically, out as friends in New York, you guys helped me with my business, which was 2 hours north of New York in the Catskills called Barn in the Pond. You saw the first barn, and you helped me hang my beautiful art in the renovated barn, and we're very much a part of that process, and I really appreciated that. And that was in 2007. And in the meantime, you guys hooked up while Allison was living with me as my roommate at the time. And he was practically a live-in as well, although he has his own place. You had been talking about starting an artist residency and farm, which I found out through Jamie Fine's interview. Love her, by the way. Which you guys were talking about at Flux Factory, which was an artist residence there. So you had envisioned this way before it happened. I ended up, I had visited you guys several times. I've been helping you in whatever capacity I've been able to help you get Habitable Spaces off the ground pretty much from the beginning. I help you now with your website and your PR and marketing and visuals and stuff. And I had the pleasure of being able to meet a lot of the people who come through the volunteer farmers. We should mention that you're a 501c3 nonprofit artist residency and self-sustainable farm, and you've been going since 2008, is it?
We incorporated.
Sorry, 8 years.
We came down here 2011, and we got our nonprofit status, I think, in 2014.
2014. So. Okay. All right. So you are kind of a dual bit. I want to call it a business because that's how I saw my business fit. A dual nonprofit in artist residency and farming, which is a very unique combination. And I just love your you're saying that you teach farmers how to make art and you teach artists how to farm, which is such a great. And we won't go too far into all that because people can listen to all the podcasts and discover all the episodes and discover this on their own. So I sold my business in February. I was slated months before to come to Austin for a concert, Rufus Du Sol, and a couple of South by Southwest events. That was in February. Sold the business, but I had gotten into a podcast class because I was inspired by Habitable Spaces, by the dinner time conversation with all the artists and the farmers and Allison's fabulous food made with everything grown on the farm, from the protein to the fruits and vegetables, just such fabulous meals. And the dinner time conversation was fabulous. And I just thinking to myself, people need to record these conversations because it's just so fascinating. Listen to all the artists and farmers, two totally different cultures interact, but people from all over the United States, all over the world. It's just so inspiring. You guys are out in rural America, about an hour outside of Austin, an hour outside of San Antonio, kind of in between the two, which is ideally located. Boy, has that area evolved since I started coming out there years ago. So my coming in February, and I came to Texas, or actually we had started getting word of Corona back then. It was Corona. So I ended up switching because South by canceled pretty early, but my concert didn't. So I ended up switching my flight to Dallas, which is where I am now, to be with family just in case. But I also wanted to be close to the farm in case the zombie apocalypse happened. So, the concert canceled. My dad and stepmother are both high risk, so I ended up hightailing it out to you guys just to kind of get to be there with you just in case anything happened. But I forgot to mention that I had come there in January and thankfully gotten a podcast a recording of us pre-pandemic. It was New Year's Eve 2020, wasn't it? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a great party.
Yeah, that was fabulous. Oh my God, how naive were we back then about everything that was about to happen. So this is one of our first episodes, is the interview between me and you guys. And we're talking about a potential collaboration that we're going to be working on in 2020. And I'll kind of let you explain to people what we talked about and how things evolved from there.
So, what?
He's talking about Cap, I think.
Oh yeah. So yes, that was in the early days.
I should probably mention that I had an Airstream trailer I was renovating for my business, didn't end up using it, so had it brought down to you guys, and we were talking about doing a cap, and you can explain what that is and what we were thinking.
Yes. Well, I think, doing this large scale thing, funding is always the tricky part, because we want to be able to pay for artists and lecturers and all kinds of free festivals, because I always want them to be free so that people don't have to pay for, learning and art. That all costs
community for free entry classes, film festivals, fall harvest, amazing stuff. They're really lucky to have you. You're lucky to have them too.
Yes, absolutely. But it all costs money to put on. So we need to come up with the money somewhere. And you had been, I think because you had stopped doing the barn or decided you were going to maybe get out of the barn on the pond, you were interested in trying to figure out a collaboration called CAP, which would be, God, I can't.
Camper,
art and agriculture park. Yes.
Where you can live in a camper, rent a camper and live amongst the arts.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So we had been kind of working on fleshing that out, which would have been I guess, kind of an Airbnb thing, really.
Ish,
But
yeah.
ish. And it was interesting because
you're already doing Hip Camp, which I discovered with my interview with Sweeney, which is how they discovered you. Amazing.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, those who don't know, it's basically Airbnb for camping.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, we had been doing that. And I think, that whole plan of doing that seemed like a good idea until March hit. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. I think the entire landscape of Airbnb type things has completely changed because obviously you can't have people coming in during a pandemic. And so we kind of had to rethink everything from the ground up. But I think it was a really good challenge because now what we've kind of come into is this idea that really melds better with what we're trying to do here with all of the food, and going back to your just what you were saying just now about the fabulous dinner parties. We're building up a Kingsbury Supper Club, which is going to be a restaurant, but it'll be a members only restaurant. I mean, anybody can join, but it'll have a membership, a collective membership, and those members will collectively own all of the animals. So there's a lot of benefits to that, which are if the members of the club own the animals, then they can participate in what's called a custom exemption slaughter, which means that all of the animals.
You know what, Allison, I hate to interrupt, but I think we should probably cover some of what happened during quarantine that built up to your decision to do this, because you also had the shop thing going. But we should talk about, so what was your impression? So we had talked about the Camper Arts and Agriculture Park New Year's Eve, and then quarantine hit. I came in March, and then I think we should talk a little bit about how that all evolved. You had Wanda there was your artist in residence. I got an interview with her. The Dutch was another one of my interviews. Were they there? No, they had come after being in pandemic in New Orleans and Cuba, right? Or did pandemic hit when they were there?
I think they got to us, and then the quarantine hit. Yeah.
They
had plans to go to New Orleans.
Yes, they had to cancel like their entire year of
in Las Vegas
of their trip. I mean, they were going to be running around for an entire year exploring America, and I think they were going to go to New Orleans after us, as far as I remember.
Yeah, right, because they
got stuck here.
Yeah, they got stuck here.
So then they basically had an RV trip,
right?
And then
word of the day. Woo.
The parks are still open, so they were like getting to see the America's parks, and then they were empty too. So that was kind of, they got an interesting trip, I think.
Yeah, so but that was a moment of.
These are all my interviews. So Wanda was there on lockdown. And then the Dutch were there on lockdown. I interviewed them. And then I ended up crashing in one of your cabins for 5 months, which is great. Started in winter and went through to the summer. It's been years since I've experienced the seasons in Texas, and that was quite a treat.
You made a great farmer, Tripp. I remember you tried to tackle a pig that was getting away.
You did, and you tackled the pig, and you grabbed a hold of it, and it turned you around, and you kept going with it, but you didn't let go.
Yep.
That thing stinks so bad, but I had a hold of it, man. I was not going to let go.
You were like, no, you are coming with me, pig. Yep.
I'm glad it wasn't. It had grown up. It was still quite small. But you guys got pigs for pandemic, and then the farmers market started, and you were working with your collaborative farm as well. And I learned so much about farming. I'm literally talking to farmers at cocktail parties, like I know what I'm talking about.
Excellent. Well, you do. You were there. Yeah. So I don't know how much of this you covered in your interviews, but we work with another farm and another farmer, Will Hemmick, who is amazing, and he has a farm.
Is his farm, which I love.
Yes, he has a farm in Kingsbury. But our place is kind of wooded, and it's very difficult to grow annual crops here. So what we decided to do with the property is grow more perennial crops using a food forest system. That's a permaculture method where you kind of create an artificial forest system, and you grow perennial fruit trees and nut trees and berries and herbs in that place. So we've set up 2 of those at Habitable. But I mean, mainly what we do here.
Also mention that we cover all of this in one of our live shoots. So before I started the podcast, we started doing live Instagram shoots, which you can access on your YouTube account, right?
Yeah.
So
yes.
But that was fabulous. And so you were able to take the produce from from his farm and yours, and talk about the farmers market a little bit, about how that arose out of the need for fresh produce during quarantine.
Yeah, that was actually, it was kind of a great opportunity for us, because we're always preaching to everybody around here, like, farm your own food. No, buy locally, buy your food locally. Don't go to the grocery store. Don't buy something wrapped in plastic. When the quarantine hit, it's like nobody wanted to go to the grocery stores anyway. So we just decided, let's start a farmer's market downtown. And we started on Sundays and just set up a table and started selling produce from it, so people could get fresh food without having to go all the way into Seguin and deal with the crowds at the grocery store.
Seguin being the closest city, which is about 15 away.
Yeah, it's about 15 miles away. And it was an amazing success. And what was really nice about it was we set up this. Yeah.
And it's still going.
It's still going. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We set up this farm table, and we were selling vegetables. And then, people would just come and be like, "Hey, can I set up a table too?" And we were like, "Come on." And I mean, it's at its height. We had like 12 vendors there, and is still going to this day. It was a big day yesterday. The market had probably about 12 vendors. We don't actually do it anymore because we don't really have time to do it. But there's a farmer down there selling veggies. There's a bunch of people selling handicrafts. It's going strong, and it's really enlivening the downtown of Kingsbury. So it's kind of great, because on a Sunday you can go to Kingsbury and know that there will be something to do, food to eat, interactions with friends, and it's great thing.
And I should probably mention that one of my first interviews, as I kind of got to know the community of Kingsbury and everything, is Mayor Shirley, who has purchased all those downtown postcard perfect historic buildings there, because Kingsbury used to be a train town. That was kind of the train depot. So yeah, it was a perfect setting for a farmer's market, both physically and with your community in place. Kingsbury's a cute.
Yeah, and it was great timing, I think, also for Shirley. I mean, when we stopped doing it, I remember Shirley was kind of razzing us a little, like, you set up this thing and now you're not doing it. But, frankly, it's been great for her, and it's been great for the downtown, because, it brings business to her store and recognition to Kingsbury, and people get together there. And it's a really great thing for Kingsbury and for Shirley as a mayor. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And so some of the things that happened during quarantine that we got on live is you got the pigs. I learned how to process pigs. I recorded that whole process, which is interesting. Yep.
Intense. It's an intense process, and you did very well.
And a lot of hard work. That is physical labor. Yeah. That is crazy. We did things like make blood sausage. I learned how to make bread, as many of us did on quarantine. A lot of things transpired there. I was the egg man. I was the guy who got the eggs every day and the chickens from the coop. Yes. trying to remember some of our memories that people are going to see during this podcast, both through the episodes and through the live stuff. Just so much has happened. So we went through quarantine. We had BLM, which I interviewed Wanda before all that happened, and just amazingly, like everything we talked about came to fruition through that.
Yeah.
We had that. We recently, the big boat, the big tanker stuck in the Suez Canal, which was a huge wake-up call in the food transportation systems, which you guys are talking about from your inception, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's something we constantly talk about. And, I am always harping on, let's get rid of the global food system. Everyone suffers. People suffer because the food isn't nutritious enough. Animals suffer within it. I mean, and as you saw during COVID, I mean, farmers were having to kill thousands and thousands of chicks and piglets, and because it's only set up for sales. It's so ridiculous. It's not set up about the animal. It's set up for, the system taking these animals to market. And when it breaks down, well, we saw the consequences of it, and they were pretty grim.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, including me, and I'm still, are asking questions that they weren't asking before. Like, wait a minute, why? One of my interviews mentioned that why do we have all this beef being raised in Texas, and I go to HEB, and I see a steak from Australia. That's on the other side of the planet. I mean, it's
so insane, right? Yeah.
But as one of my interviewees mentioned, I think it was Allie Stone, the mycologist, said it's not that people are anti all globalization. That has its place. It's that we need to manage it better. I think local. Yeah. But global where it's needed, and combine the two, but make things a little more local to where one of my interviewees said it was Jamie Idea, who said the most radical thing you can do is be familiar with or be close to your food source or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, especially with animals, it's so important. I mean, because to know how they're treated, and the plants too. I mean, they've done studies about vegetables that are imported. They pick a lot of these vegetables that are shipped for long periods of time, or, for long distances. They pick them green, and they just do not have the same kind of vitamins that a vegetable picked fresh off the vine does.
Yeah. So, learned about that. And also, and along those lines, the soil regeneration is a big part of the farming thing that I've learned, is that we're with the big corporate farms, that they suck all the nutrients out, and they don't rotate the crops to regenerate the soil. So you're dealing with the soil that doesn't give you the same nutrients it did before. And that's one of the things that I learned with Hefe, the head farmer there, who's another one of my interviews. Is he's talking about how you take the the goat poo or whatever, he called it goat gold, where you put it, into the chicken shit, the goat shit, on Will's farm, the cow shit, you mix it all in, and and it fertilizes the soil and replenishes all the nutrients, which I found interesting. And that out here in Texas with your clay soil is one of the most important things you can learn as a farmer, from what I gathered.
And that's one of the beauties of having a small farm, is that, I think global these big corporate farms, they're using this extractive capitalism, which is what it's the American way, I guess. Extractive capitalism. You just suck all your resources out of the land, and you don't give anything back, and you suck it dry, and then you just leave it, or you supplement it with tons of fertilizer because you have to. But regenerative work, like small farms, regenerate the land because they put the manure back in, they put the compost back in. It's made from the refuse after you harvest your vegetables. So it's putting it all back in the soil for the next time around. Yeah, a lot of amazing lessons learned on that, and just overall, I think there was just first of all, a lot of questions being asked by people like me who had no interaction with farming or
any of that stuff. Like, where's it coming? And then I come home I moved to Austin, and all of my stuff is coming from Amazon, and then I find out it's all from China.
A lot of stuff is from China, yeah.
Yeah,
and badly made.
So that, and now we're dealing still kind of with the tail end of COVID, hopefully, where a lot of these shipping container boats are being held in a lot of our major ports. So we have tons of empty shelves in the supermarket here in Texas, and I've heard people say the same thing. So we've got like major wake up calls going on here, and major questions being asked, and a lot of reprioritization. I think this podcast covers a lot of, and what you do at Habitable Spaces covers a lot of that. So I think everything that we've done here is really timely. I think it's going to hold its own over time, and I'm really excited. I'm really proud and excited about what we've achieved here, guys. And I hope to do this with you, because I've been a big believer in your message. I don't practice it, but I speak it, and I try to incorporate it into my daily decision-making process. So hopefully others will do the same, and it will affect change over time. So we had the quarantine. We decided no public coming on campus. But let's talk about your shop and how that's changed, and how quarantine has kind of changed your priorities with that.
Yeah. Well, so I think going back to the CAP thing, we were originally thinking we would be doing this kind of Airbnb-ish experience where people could come and stay in these little cabins in the forest and interact with the farm. But now we've been focusing on this building, and we've now got a 2,400 square foot shop space. And
a lot of that was achieved on quarantine, right? I mean, you had you had the basics, but we did a lot of work on that during quarantine. Big quarantine. Yes.
One of the advantages of having no work available, you can just work your butt off at the farm nonstop.
Allison's saying work for pay is what she's
saying. Oh, paid work, yeah. So we actually got a lot done on the shop. It's almost done. We are building a commercial kitchen in there. And we've got a big wood shop and kind of maker space. We've got an outdoor area that we're going to put a concrete pad on and a roof over that'll hold all our kilns. So we'll have a ceramics studio and kiln area to fire ceramics.
Yeah,
and then
by the dog, I mentioned you guys got 3 kiln donations there for the potters.
Yes, amazing. 4. But the 3 from Eye of the Dog,
3 from Eye of the Dog. I think they're all
Eye
of the Dog. Okay.
So that was amazing. And then Shane and I actually built ourselves some studios. So maybe one in the future we can stop working so much and make some art.
Love it.
Come up.
Yeah.
Your next level, we were saying during quarantine.
Yes. So our main vision now that we have this shop is to really try to bring people in for classes, workshops, using the ceramics, doing ceramic classes, painting classes, and sculpture classes, and food-oriented classes. And then one idea that developed through the pandemic, because we saw these restaurants shutting down, and we're realizing and thinking about, like, Shane and I are total foodies, and we love going out to eat. But now it's like, well, who wants to eat inside anymore? So we kind of started thinking, well, maybe we should do a farm to table restaurant and get people out in the outside, in the fresh air, where they can come and experience the farm and have a farm to table meal.
Mm-hmm.
At the farm. So that's kind of where the Kingsbury Supper Club idea was born in the middle of COVID. Rethinking.
Got a lot of amazing culinary collaborators as well.
Yes, we've had so many great chefs and butchers and culinary artists come through our doors over the years, and it's been amazing. And we will be collaborating with a lot of people for this supper club too. And that's actually I'm kind of seeing it as almost like a gallery. Like we can take on. We're going to do monthly dinners, and then we'll probably have a bar and area just open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where you can come in and get a cheese plate with homemade cheeses or a charcuterie board, or and then once a month we'll do dinners, and we'll be featuring different local chefs from the area, so we can bring people in and they can do a one night guest chef thing once a month.
Or like a weekend's, escape, or like
Yeah.
a cook.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Possibilities are endless. I'm so excited to see what you do with that.
Yeah.
So we're also developing a gallery space in the shop too, which should always have a show that's put up when we have the supper club. So
yeah,
I'll put some over there and maybe, encourage people to, hopefully it'll help sale, art sales that people at dinner might tend to buy stuff. We're hoping so, at least.
Yeah.
You should mention, Shane, that you worked at one of the big San Antonio museums. Which one was that?
Well, Alice and I both worked at
the McNay.
At the McNay, and I worked at the Briscoe for 5 years almost.
Mm-hmm.
And then you knew about all the moving walls, how to light for galleries, and how you're going to know how to show it. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, we are gonna. We're not sure if it's gonna be a hard space, like a hard. What am I trying to say? We don't know if it's going to be movable walls that set up the gallery space that separate it from the rest of the shop space, or if it's actually going to be like a permanent thing. We're figuring that part out. It might actually be a permanent thing, and then if you just want to use that room for something else, you can use it. But it'll be outfitted out to be a gallery space and have air conditioning and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And you got those beautiful glass garage doors, which I see all over Texas, to make an indoor-outdoor space, which I love. It just looks really exciting. And it did not look like that when for quarantine. That is a quarantine success story.
That is absolutely, because I think when you first came down, all we had was a metal roof and this amazing one of our friends had made this. We got a bunch of drill pipe and he welded together the frames. So it was just a roof.
Yeah, it was just
with no concrete floor
and the back
or anything.
Wall was started.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so we poured all the concrete, got all the walls up, got it insulated, got it wired. It's been a
we poured a few concrete rounds while I was there in quarantine. Actually,
yes, you were there walking around the concrete.
4 of them out of 5, right? Or all 5?
Yeah, man. Tripp,
we broke each bay up into a pour.
Yeah.
So it was 5 pours.
Pours were expensive, I found out. Like you had to kind of just go as you could afford to go.
Yeah.
That and it's
a lot of labor.
You have to make a huge form to do it all at once. And we don't really have the expertise to do that. We're not really concrete people, so we didn't really want to try to go huge.
Well, it looks.
We
did
go big, but in parts.
And I would hope that you could put a few butch notches on your belt there, Tripp, with concrete pouring, tackling pigs, all the farming.
Notch. That was fun. Yeah. Great. Okay. So we've talked about your everything that's going to happen in the future. And gosh, what else? What should we talk about to just kind of like get people who haven't listened to any of the episodes or seen any of the live footage? What should we
I'm kind of thinking, so we've been out on this property for 9 years now. And so we're kind of getting to this new phase. I mean, a lot of it's built finally. So I think looking forward to the future, it's more about bringing community in to really enjoy what we have to offer, teaching people, the supper club, feeding people. And then with the supper club, we're also going to be, they'll be kind of joint owners of the animals. So we'll have the animals there so they can kind of learn about dairy goats and just how to care for animals,
And chickens.
Chickens.
Yeah, there's a lot of learning potential there. And I love when people first hit the farm and they're like, oh my, this place is amazing. But then they start asking questions about the chickens, the goats, the farm, the garden you have over there, the structures that you've built all yourself. I think it's a really exciting future ahead of you.
Yeah, I'm absolutely excited. We're gearing up. We're already having meetings with folks in our community. So even though we've been out here 9 years, we have been operating as Habitable Spaces entity for 10 years now, because we started in New York City, like you had said before, with planning it. And we had our first official function at the end of October in New York in 2011. Yeah. So we had this huge party in the fall, and it was a costume party with bands and an silent art auction and performers, and it was a blast. Fun. So this year is going to be our 10th fall harvest event. And we're going to make a big deal about it. It's going to be downtown. We've already been having meetings with a bunch of local Kingsbury folks who are going to help out. And I think it's going to be a big community affair with, live music and all kinds of interactive art pieces. And so that'll be a blast. So November 13th, Fall Harvest, gang.
Mm-hmm. All right. And hopefully I'll be able to interview Rigoberto, who is what did he do for you on that?
So yeah, we're about to do. We didn't do a summer. We do a summer film fest every year as well, which we started 5 years ago. I think this would be our 6th one. I have to count. I can't really remember.
I don't want to say that because I don't trust us.
Yeah, we didn't do one last year because of COVID. So now we're starting those up again. So it's a summer film fest that we do, and our film fests are always a little different because we don't just show like up and coming films. We always get a curator, an artist to curate it, and then it's whatever they want to do.
But they're all typically art films.
Yes,
there is a feature. There is typically a feature as well.
What is the general?
So yeah, you didn't really answer I was worried about that. Rigoberto Luna is the director and co-founder of Pressa House Gallery, and for us, he is the curator for the film festival.
Yes.
Okay. Pressa House being one of the big galleries in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a wonderful gallery. It's Rigoberto usually curates music in the backyard, and then there's he's got a great community around him, and he always has the best shows. He's really got a great eye for art, and so we're super excited to have him working with us. So that event is going to be on Saturday, the June 12th. Let me just make sure.
Yes.
Don't worry about it. People are going to be viewing this hopefully years later, so don't worry about the date. Yeah. But it's just good to know what's going on and the kind of people you have involved and the kind of things you do. So Fall Harvest, Film Fest, anything else we should mention that you do on a yearly basis?
Well then, so those are our two big ones. Hopefully in the next I'm hoping we have another festival that we want to add, which is going to be our Golden Age Revival Festival. It'll probably be 2022, before we can get that one off the ground, but that one's going to be,
longer.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm always I'm the pessimist.
I love you're the voice of reason.
It's going to be longer, but
it's been fun watching you two work together too. That was one thing I got out of living with you for 5 months, is watching you operate together. I'm like, oh, so this is how it worked. It's cute. It's a good synergy.
I'm glad Tripp's the word that came to your mind.
I say yes, Shane says no. That's how it works.
Pretty much.
I say yes to everything. Let's jump into the abyss. Let's power forward into the unknown, and he's like, hell no. We're not doing that. No.
Okay, it's not a no. It's have we thought about all this? It's really what I say.
I appreciate
from us doing this project that there's been too many times that we've built into our own problems, especially like doing construction and us not knowing it starting off. Like when you don't know what you're doing in construction, you will build into your own problems, and you will have to tear stuff out that you've done. So
Yeah.
I'm always like, let's think about everything before we do anything kind of person. But I could sit there and think about it all day, and Allison wants to swing a hammer when she doesn't know what she's going to build. But you know, it's kind of somewhere in between there. We find some happy balance.
Yeah.
And I'm glad cute's the word that came to mind.
I love watching it. It's so much fun. Well, this is all amazing. I think we should probably close out. I'm supposed to keep it under an hour, and I haven't been tracking time because we've been picked up in Berlin. I love it. Y'all are playing in Berlin.
Yes, that's exciting. Yeah, it looks like we have been on for 40 minutes.
You've been telling me.
Yeah, we will. Well, I'd just like to say maybe one last thing.
Yeah.
This project has been an amazing project to found with Shane and with all the people that we've come through and who have helped us, like you. And I mean, we've had so many hundreds of people come here and swing a hammer, help us with ideas, help us with, you know, all kinds of support. And it is built by many hands and many minds. This place is a huge, gargantuan collaborative art piece. And it's been a challenge to think about because, you know, it's always hard doing something that's not been done before, just because there's no roadmap to help you.
You're blazing your own trails.
Yeah. And I'm just, you know, I'm really grateful to you for doing this podcast, actually, because you are celebrating some of the people that we love, including yourself, and that we love and who have worked with us in the past and will work with us in the future. And just kind of a little glimpse into the huge family that is Habitable Spaces. I mean, you know, Shane and I are just the initial like visionaries, but there's so many people who have added to and helped create this space.
Yeah, I think one of the unexpected themes of this entire podcast has become community. And there are you have so many different levels of community. You know, you had your New York community before, which I interviewed, you know, people like Jamie Fine and people that were with you before. And then you had the Kingsbury community. I got to interview Mayor Shirley and so many amazing people there in Kingsbury. You got really lucky with that rural Texas.
Amazing.
Well, Tripp, I'll say this though.
I love this town.
You almost like you bringing it all out by doing each podcast and interview. I mean, it's like the dynamic and eclectic nature of some of the people we know. I mean, it's just the way you brought all the best out of them. It's kind of like seeing them all through your show is kind of like, oh, wow, I guess we do know those people and all this stuff. But it seems more interesting through your lens than maybe it is in my own brain or whatever, you know?
No, there's some.
I actually got to know you guys better through our interview, which was interesting because a lot of what we talked about, we didn't really think about talking about before. So I got to know you as well, which was very
awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, and we're going to keep on finding new people to work with and keep on expanding our community. And
yeah. And the other part of this community factor, I think, is the fact that everyone kind of went digital. I didn't even know what Zoom was before all this happened. And I discovered it there on the farm in quarantine. And now look at what we're doing with all this stuff. You know, we've talked about, you know, if you were on the fence going digital, a lot of people got pushed over whether they liked it or not. So I think this is, you've got people all over the world, including the Berlin people who picked us up on the podcast. Thank you for that. But I think
I love them
here is you're starting a global community, and a lot of this is due to your digital endeavors. And I think that's a very exciting part of where you're going in the future with all this stuff as well.
Well, maybe we should bring back one point too, which is like, you know, here we are harping on getting rid of the global capitalist system, but you know, the perfect replacement for that is the global localized system. Like, let's talk village to village, let's talk person to person. We have the means through the internet to create a huge global local village. And that's what's so important, because we all need to care about each other in this future world. We all need to help each other. We all need to help each other make better choices when we're not, you know, thinking about the planet or the community or whatever. And you know, it's
And better choices for you may not be better choices for someone in Sweden, for example. You know, each little local community, I'm learning, has its own chemistry, its own strengths, its own weaknesses. Some things they can do local, but some things they would need to rely on the global for. So it's just a matter of finding that balance. You know, what's in your wheelhouse? What can you lean on Eye of the Dog for example, or other people do what you do, other farmers like Will's Farm, for example. It's like learn that you don't do it all yourself there. You have collaborative chemistry with people, depending on what you have to offer in the community, which I found fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And it leads to such a richer life, you know, when you are collaborating with people just on a daily basis with everything. I mean, you have this beautiful, rich, inclusive life that, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it reminds people that, you know, their neighbors are there. You know, sometimes you're going to need to lean on your neighbor, so don't piss them off too soon, because they might be in the, you know, in the Northeast, they might be scraping the snow out of your driveway or mowing your lawn or helping you when you're out of town or whatever. So, you know, get to know your neighbors and your farmers. I learned get to know your farmers.
Yes. Get to know your farmers.
Yeah.
And the animals and plants.
Exactly.
And actually, well, one thing I always say also is the community extends beyond our human community. We have to also think about the animals and plants and the world we live in and all the other creatures we share this space with, because it's not just humans, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Habitat. We need to focus on creating habitat or preserving habitat for all the different animals that are keeping us alive, you know, and plants.
Yeah. So many.
I learned a lot about, you know, things we can eat and things we can't eat when we had that mushroom incident where we foraged the mushrooms, and the farmers who did it didn't quite look close enough at the diagram, and a few people got sick. That's on the Dutch interview, by the way. It's hilarious.
There you go. It's in there then.
It's in there. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah. All right. Well, closing thoughts.
I think that COVID has, you know, I've been talking to a lot of people about COVID, and so many people have said, you know what, it's kind of weird because it sucked, but it was also kind of an amazing thing, and it's made people more introspective and thinking about community more. And I think it's a teacher, you know, like any good trauma, it has taught all of us that we need to love our neighbor and be together as a community and stop all the hatred, man. You know, don't be hating on your neighbor. Don't be divisiveness just keeps us apart, and you know, inclusiveness and community makes us stronger. So yeah, that's what I hope for the future. And
absolutely
eat local.
Yeah.
And Tripp, you did such a good job on the whole thing. I would say everybody go out there and listen to all the Tripps.
Oh man, they're so damn good, Tripp. They are so damn good. It's been such a pleasure to listen.
I could not have had better, more interesting, dynamic, creative guests. That I really appreciate, because I learned so much from each one of them. I'm just like, I end up talking about the things that they taught me in daily conversation. I'm like, wow, I've learned about farming, about mycology, about pottery. I'm talking languages that I never spoke before. And for someone like me, it's just like, that is the creme de la creme of why I'm doing this. It's just so exciting. And I really hope to continue this collaboration, because it's worked out beautifully, I think.
And in the words of Auntie Mame, life is a banquet, darling, and most poor fools are starving to death.
Starving! Starving.
So let's not starve. Let's sit down at the banquet table and dine.
I love it.
Our neighbors.
Let's do it, and let's close out. We've got to talk about Seth's song. So Seth is one of the farmers that you collaborate with. He helped you build the makerspace out there, and he and his band Traintown, who met through you, all Kingsbury boys, were kind enough to do just an amazing job on the music on this podcast. So I think we should close out with that.
Yay. Yes. Yay, Seth.
Go for
And
it.
Jerry and the whole gang.
You guys, I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you let me quarantine on the farm, because and relative to some of our friends in New York, LA, and other places, wow, we had it really good because we were out there in rural America. We didn't quite get the brunt of what a lot of the city folk did. So I'm just so incredibly grateful for you guys for everything.
Yes. Well,
Sure.
I'm grateful to have you there. And
Sorry,
also,
the internet's not better.
I know, right? We need to work on that one.
I
Yeah.
know.
Right.
But yeah, I feel so bad for our New York City friends too, and all the people who were isolated during this whole time. And hopefully they're out partying now with their vaccinations and having some fun.
Yeah,
And
California, same way. And we'll be glad to have the comedians, the bands, the films, the television shows, like all these things that we were missing before. I hope they come back.
yeah, me too. They will. They will.
All right. Well, we're going to close out with Seth's song. Thanks a lot. This is the
right.
end of this season, but the beginning of new interviews with you guys in collaboration with me, and we'll figure it out as we go, as we do.
Wonderful.
Bye, Shane. Bye, Allison. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Tripp.
Tripping down here without reservations, without knowing his destination. But now he's here, but not quite clear just what he will do. Some friends from habitable spaces said, come on over to one of our places. So we jumped right into life on the farm. Hey, don't you fly too high. Everybody's gotta have some time to cry. Hey, don't you fly too high to find your place in the sky. Hey, don't you fly too high. Everybody's gotta have some time to cry. Hey, don't you fly too high to find your place in the sky.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.